Thank you for having me.
I mean, this is a very important topic. There needs to be more awareness about it. You represent the 34th District, which covers parts of Queens, and that's really a hot spot for human trafficking. But what do you think really caused the spike in human trafficking?
Well, I think it's important to know that human trafficking can happen under two conditions: labor trafficking and sex trafficking. And unfortunately, labor trafficking often happens in plain sight. So the hotspots is a really complicated identity because it can happen all over the state. But certainly as a representative of Jackson Heights and Corona, I'm on the street working with community-based organizations that are on the ground, working with vulnerable communities to make sure they're getting the resources that they need. So we're out there in the community, but it's important to recognize that there's both sex trafficking and labor trafficking that's happening based on either force, fraud, or coercion.
Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, how you go about the enforcement then? Because you just heard from that victim right there who said she was targeted in middle school by people that she knew. So how common is it that those who are doing the trafficking are actually people that they know?
Yeah, that's why it's so important that we work with community-based organizations, people that are on the ground. We're looking at legislation to make sure that it's easier for victims to get the resources that they need. Right now, we have a large migrant population. They're very vulnerable to trafficking situations, and I have a bill that would allow for people, despite immigration status, to be able to get housing assistance, healthcare access, cash assistance, while they're trying to escape the situation, and perhaps while their trial is undergoing or their case is undergoing, because a T or U visa for undocumented people or immigrants can take a very long time. So that's something we're looking to do to help folks get out of the situation, get the resources that they need.
It's really terrifying to see how they can lure people into believing that maybe they're a legit situation, it's a legit situation or a legit offer, and then it's like a bait and switch kind of situation. How much does social media then play a role in that?
Yeah, there's a report by the U.S., the federal government, that looked at the digital strategies, how it's both helpful in finding survivors of trafficking, but also has been part of the problem in luring people into these situations, promising them, these opportunities, oftentimes globally. So it's an important tool on both ends, right? So we have to actually address it as well in terms of solving the problem. But it's really tragic. People are promised opportunities, and then their identification's taken away, their funding is taken away, they're forced to work long hours without breaks. So it's important that we're doing the education to pick up on these cases. And that's another bill I have that's looking at how the DMV can ensure that people who have commercial driver's licenses have the tools and resources and training to pick up on awareness of that, because 52% of people who are trafficked are either by car, van, or truck.
Okay, so and unfortunately, trafficking isn't new. But has there been an increase, I guess, since the migrant crisis has come? We've kind of targeted Roosevelt Avenue, for example, for a host of issues. Trafficking was among one of them. And so you have these series of bills that the governor has signed, but was there an increase just in the past couple of years?
Well, it's hard to say. The data is a little bit slow. So from 2002, there was a report from the Interagency Task Force on Human Trafficking, and it quoted about 300 cases. And then by the hotline, the national hotline, in 2023, it spiked to about 845 cases. So there are different data sets that we're looking at, but it looks like there's a rise. Perhaps our tools are getting better and resources are getting better to capture this. So there's a lot of different factors, but certainly we're watching this. We're working with community-based organizations. We're listening and we're raising awareness. There's legislation that requires education posters in bathrooms, in throughways and airports and the Port Authority. So the education has ramped up quite a bit. So perhaps it's been helpful to capture and help the survivors of trafficking.
But how optimistic are you that that's going to go follow through? I mean, that you're going to have legislation pass and all of these, intentions are actually followed through on?
I'm very hopeful. I think this is something that it has a lot of support, bipartisan support. There's also a bill that would eliminate the statute of limitations. So if a survivor of sex trafficking or child sex trafficking, they don't have to report it within the 5-year statute of limitations. We can remove that so people can come forward to make sure that we're allowing the opportunity for them to have their case heard and to go after their traffickers. So these are things that are widely supported. We're really going to push for it. Again, it looks like there's a spike in numbers, but they're two different data sets. We're waiting for the interagency report for 2023, so we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay. Keep us posted on that as
Thank
well.
you.
And we're going to have you back. We're out of time today, but I want to talk about school lunches and how that
Yes.
may be affected by what's going on.
I love that.
But great to have you here.
Thank you
Always
both so
good to
much.
see you.
And if you know someone and that needs help, you can call the human trafficking hotline at 1-888-373-7888, or you can also text "Be Free" or "Help" to 233-733. Good information to have.
7:51, everybody, and we will be right back.